Okay, let's set the stage. Today's explainer isn't your standard, dry, philosophical breakdown. We're opening the curtain on a grim, dark, theatrical duel. Actually, let's frame it like this. I am the Shadow, and we are going to explore my absolute favorite tragedy, the paradox of productive evil. It's this fascinating tale about the terrifying yet absolutely necessary friction required to forge a human soul. So let the lights dim, and let's watch our protagonist make his very first fatal mistake.
The abyss does not announce itself with a thunderclap. It arrives with a low, rhythmic scratching at the door. Listen to that line. Deliver that in your mind with a bit of theatrical tension, because it completely establishes our core theme. You see, my most perilous dangers, they don't kick the door down in the middle of a screaming storm. No, they creep in quietly. They slip through the cracks when your soul is at its absolute most complacent. It's when you think you're totally secure that the threat is actually right on top of you.
Let's jump straight into our prologue, The Complacent Hermitage, and look at the danger of the static word.
So let me introduce our protagonist, the Wanderer. He's descended into this deep valley and retreated into an abandoned hermitage. Why? Well, he mistakenly wanted what we call the resistance of enclosure. He's looking for a single, static word to perfectly anchor him against the chaotic flux of existence. But outside his walls is unmeasured reality, just continuous becoming. By isolating himself, his intellectual isolation created this rational blindness. He literally invited his own doom, because as it turns out, the soul's most dangerous moment is exactly when it feels the most comfortable.
Which brings us to Act 1, the intrusion, and the arrival of the domestic beast. So our wanderer is sitting there, right? Surrounded by his fragile certainties, and he hears that low scratching. He opens the door to find his honest witness, a wet, small, totally harmless-looking black poodle. This perfectly illustrates the mercurial truth of negation. The principle here is that danger and existential decay always arrive disguised as the familiar, the domestic, the comfortable. Shifting gears for a second, think about your own life. We think we're so safe in our warm little sanctuaries, clinging to our lazy certitudes, but that complacency is exactly what invites the rot. The beast looked safe, and so it gained admission.
Moving right along into Act 2, the dialogue and transformation, where the architect is finally revealed. Now, what's really interesting to note here is that terrifying morphosis that's about to happen.
Watch this visual sequence unfold in your mind. The wanderer thinks he's just hanging out with a non-threatening stray poodle. But then, the illusion completely shatters. The beast starts to warp and expand, swelling into this towering, fluid shadow. An unmeasured reality that literally no cage of logic can contain. And finally, the shadow resolves itself into the cynical scholar. A thin, precise figure wearing a cold razor smile. The disguise is gone, and the true architect of negation steps onto the stage.
And here comes the challenge. Imagine that razor-sharp voice looking down at him. Why do you seek a static word when the universe is a chaotic flux? It's a direct, piercing strike at the Wanderer's intellectual cowardice. He's trying to pin the universe down like a dead butterfly on a corkboard, hoping to save himself from the agony of living. But life just doesn't hold still for cowards.
Now let's define this architect of negation. He isn't some mustache-twirling cosmic enemy out to destroy the world. Not at all. He is an irreplaceable, functional gear in the grand text of reality. He's the essential friction that prevents the sovereign will from falling into a permanent, lazy slumber. The philosophy here is that all that arises deserves to perish, sure, but this very denial is the mechanical necessity that keeps the spirit from just rotting away in a sterile room.
Here is the central paradox. In his own words, I eternally will evil, yet I am bound to eternally work good. It's brilliant, really. By mocking, by disrupting, and destroying that warm sanctuary, the shadow acts as this unintended catalyst. He literally forces the seeker out of passive thought and into the cold, dangerous, vital arena of experiential growth.
And this brilliantly illustrates the climax of our play in Act 3, The Resolution, and the birth of the tragic philologist.
Standing amidst the absolute ruins of his complacency, the Wanderer has a massive epiphany. Searching for a safe, anchored truth was a total fool's errand from the start. He needs to learn the architecture of becoming. The shadow provides this philological, aesthetic resistance, the doubts, the agonizing obstacles that the wanderer must actively interpret and untangle. He has to transition to action. You can't just think your way out of the dark. You have to accept this necessary initiation and repurpose all that friction for your own evolution.
All that is transitory is only a symbol. The The material world, with all its crushing weight and agonizing trials, isn't a prison. It's merely a living, shifting text. Think about what this means for us. Your past errors, your deep-seated guilt, the radical insufficiency of just being human, they aren't permanent failures. No way. They're raw, poetic metaphors. You absolutely need them as the rough stone against which you strike your willpower, just to sculpt a monumental tapestry of self-overcoming.
Which brings us to our epilogue, the departure, and moving toward the volatile deed. So the crucial point we're driving at here is this stark contrast. The Wanderer refuses to retreat behind some sterile morality. He completely leaves behind the passive word, that comfortable slumber and intellectual stagnation that almost killed his spirit. Instead, he chooses the volatile deed, experiential growth, a cosmic symphony. We really have to abandon passive thought for decisive action, transforming the pure agony of existence into a triumphant dance alongside our most perilous companions.
And here is our final image. The Wanderer gathers his parchment, opens the door of the ruined hermitage, and steps right out into the cold mountain mist. But he's not alone. The Shadow is walking right there at his side, matching him stride for stride. They are departing together, perfectly proving that the spirit of creation fundamentally requires the spirit of negation to actually discover its highest potential.
So as the curtain falls and the house lights come up, I want to leave you with one final theatrical challenge. When the abyss comes scratching at your door, disguised as a quiet, uncomfortable disruption to your cozy, everyday routine, what will you do? Will you cower in the hermitage of your own complacency, or will you admit the beast, invite that essential friction in, and finally discover what you are truly capable of? Think about it. The stage is yours.